I don't know if I would consider her a small store or not, or she could be considered a corporation. But in terms of legal standing, I really do believe that she could be sued because she is discriminating in price. They are from the same seller, and sales must be contemporaneous. Never heard of that word before in my life. Contemporaneous. 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 Happening or existing in the same time. Oh, so the sales must be happening at the same time. Contemporaneous, meaning happening, recorded, or executing at the same time as a specific event. Of commodities of like greater quality, sold for use, consumption, or resale. But this could also be price discrimination. So let me look further into price discrimination. Uh, Personalized pricing called one-to-one marketing. Product line, second degree pricing, or menu pricing, group pricing, dividing market into segments and charging a different price for each segment. Market power. I've never heard of P&G taxonomy. I already know what a market and consumer surplus are. Advantages, retail price, travel industry. I'm mainly looking to see if charging someone different money. I wonder if there's height discrimination, because there has to be. Yeah, it's just weird. I can't find anything. Main thing I know is that honestly, the use in being discriminated on height and weight is very common. But this being like height based discrimination and sex based, let's just be honest, it's sex and height. I don't think this is I do think that there's potential for a lawsuit, but I can't fully see it. I feel like this might just be thrown out. Hmm. Where is what would be the would be good? Reverse social links?
Friendship with Persona is over. Shin Megami Tensei is my new best friend. All jokes aside, though, I noticed an interesting contrast between Persona and SMT is that Persona is about forming unbreakable bonds and the value of human interaction.
W persona. W persona. But where was I? Between persona and just legal reasoning. This has to be. This is definitely against the law. This is definitely a criminal act. I wouldn't even say criminal. I'd say against civil law, not or corporate law. I feel like this would definitely be against corporate law, actually.
But believe it or not, Persona wasn't always just a series where your friends always sucked up to
Yeah,
you.
this would be
Yes, you could make your friends hate you,
corporate law,
even hurt
but
them.
the main problem with this would be that they'd
Persona 3 and 4 to a small extent, choosing the wrong thing to say in a social link can result in your affinity with that character's arcana reversing. The implications for what exactly this means is not made entirely clear upon it first happening, so allow me to clarify here. We'll start with the most obvious way to trigger it. Choosing a bad dialogue choice while hanging out with a social character will make them upset. This is indicated by the terror card for that character's arcana flipping upside down. This is referred to as the card's reverse position in fortune telling, usually indicating something bad's going to happen. But what does that actually entail? Well, that varies from game to game. I'm not going to summarize every breakup the protagonists in these games have.
Miami.
I'm just going to explain how the mechanic comes into play. In Persona 3 Reload, you won't be able to score social points with that character for a while. You have to walk up to that character in your spot on three separate occasions before they forgive you, and you can proceed with the social. However, even upon forgiving you, you gotta wait until the next time they're available to hang out with them again. None of your attempts at getting their forgiveness will use up your day activity. This can only happen with Yukari and Shihiro. There's actually an instance of a scripted reverse for the Moon Social Link at rank 9. This is not in the original Persona 3 or FES, but
It's
also
importable.
virtually affects nothing, as it will unreverse itself shortly after. You
It
may
is
think,
kind of cool.
wow, that doesn't sound too harsh. This is the most recent implementation of this mechanic, mind you. As we go further back, you'll find that the ramifications of mistreating your friends can be much greater than you might expect. Persona 4 is more or less the same story as Persona 3.
I mean, how do people get reverse social links anyway? I literally don't. I never have to deal with that anyway because I forgot. Show. Show. Um, YouTube.
Like Naruto, you can reverse her with a single dialogue option in rank 3 for social. However,
Okay, part of me thinks this is just an ad for whatever ripple it is, but I'm just gonna go with it.
later on in rank 6,
Gideon, bubble tea. Oh, bubble tea. Let me see what. Now I'm thinking about Fin. I don't want to think about FNAF. Ben 10 made a joke about FNAF in his comic book. I don't want to think about FNAF. Conservatives aren't real. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. This would be an interesting video to react to. How conservatives aren't real. Actually, that would be an interesting thing to look at. Your average boba enjoyer. I'm thinking about it. That would be a cool one. Buy me a boba. That'd be funny. Instead of buy me a coffee, buy me a boba. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
He could only have gotten that idea from Benjamin Netanyahu.
Growing up as a Gen Z in Los Angeles, the mere idea of conservatism was always something that was beyond antiquated and socially shunned. Of course, there were your boomers who bought a house for a pack of gum and a $2 bill.
You could have only gotten that idea from Benjamin Netanyahu. That's pretty funny. Actually, you had it for like a little bit. You're good. You go.
And socially shunned. Of course, there were your boomers who bought a house for a pack of gum and a $2 bill that held Ronald Reagan in the highest esteem, but it was incredibly rare for a young person to identify with conservatism or
It's Ronald Reagan's fault. I mean, Ronald Reagan is the most disgusting piece of... Actually, no. I will not go on a tangent about hating Ronald Reagan. I will not do it. Not today. Not today. I will do it on another day. I will save my energy because I do not want to spend my energy and time on hatred. I have better things to do. I have better things I could waste my energy on than just hatred.
the Republican Party at large, and if you did, you were hiding deep in the conservative closet. However, the gay liberal default setting seems to have been patched, and in
It seems to have been patched. W patches. By patches, I mean the character from Dark Souls 1. W patches.
2026, the political tides have shifted in a different direction, and conservatism and right-leaning beliefs have never been more prominent amongst the populace and young people specifically.
Basically, simple terms, left wing don't like them, right wing tolerate them. Simple.
In decades. Nick Fuentes has become a household name, racism is making quite the comeback, and being a
Honestly, I don't even think it had made a comeback. I think it's always just been there. It's just been like hidden. Because I mean, racism never died to begin with, so. Racism was still around in the 90s, still around in the 2000s, still around now. Never died.
Nazi is cool again. It's all very peculiar, I know.
Wait, Trump? You're waiting for Trump's presidency to be over so the Fourth Reich can begin. We're not the same. It has to be a joke. If it's a joke, then I'm gonna laugh. If it's not, then my generation needs help. if this isn't a joke, because I think I just see this as a joke.
It's all very peculiar, I know. In this video, I'll attempt to answer what is conservatism even about. Shall we?
Nothing. It's about nothing. It's just a whole load of nothing. Mixed with Christianity. Mixed with more nothing. Conservatism is conserving an idea that's already gone. Everything in conservatism is already gone. It was either during a bad time in history, or, they had a better standard of living, and they think, if I go back to, say, 50 years ago, I'll be living much better lives. but then you'll also have the same problems. So it's not really about fixing anything. If anything, the only difference between the conservative and the liberals is their social ideologies. Because people are really and generally like they're economically left. They're economically left leaning. They just are more right wing in terms of social ideals, not really. It's not really they're different. They're the same, just different. It's they don't really exist. If you had a conversation with a conservative, they mostly have a lot of the same views as you do. They just would word it differently. But it's just going to continue.
Shows that young men are unprecedentedly shifting to the political right, and that's very clear with the rise of figures like Nick Fuentes and the multitude of Austrian painter edits all over social media.
Actually, I was gonna say I do like his speeches. Like they just hype me up for some reason. I don't know why. Those speeches just like gave me a little bit of hype because he just like you just hear the anger in his voice, and they like fill me with like hype and yeah, I don't know. That's what I do. Oh, actually, this live is currently having 2 viewers. Oh, actually, just 1. I don't know why it says 2. I don't know why it says 2. But yeah. So, where was I? I was talking about how the mustache man has very angry speeches and about how most of it was a bunch of malarkey. Yes, a bunch of it was a bunch of malarkey. I even recently learned that the Treaty of Versailles, the debt was already paid by the time he made the speech in 1939. Especially by like 1939. The debt was mostly forgiven, or I think the debt was gone by like 1939, so they didn't even have to really pay the debt. The main thing that I'd argue if I was to sympathize with the mustache man is that they weren't allowed to have a big army, which kind of sucked. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you. During the time of the World War II, Germany was suffering. I won't say that they were justified in their actions, but the United States and Britain were kind of bullies at the time. They did have bigger armies, they had bigger navies, they had pretty much bigger than everyone else. And then America was mainly benefiting from the war because they were selling weapons. They were doing the Lend-Lease Act. Actually, I don't know if that was World War I or World War II. But either way, they were clearly benefiting from the wars. The Lend-Lease. It was a time where we were giving them weapons. Yeah, it was around 1941. So yeah, they were clearly benefiting from World War II until Pearl Harbor in 1940 December. I think that was December 1941, right? That had to be either 41 or 42, December 7th. 1942, I think. It had to be 1942. December 7th, 1942. Yes, it was, no, that was 1941. It was December 7th, 1941. I was off by 1 year. I was off by it was in 1942, not 41. 1941. Get it in my head. 1941. Pearl Harbor. Which led us to get involved and then basically battle for around like 3 to 4 years. And after that, basically, it ended in 1945. But yeah, that's the main thing. Like conservatism, they're all like economically left leaning anyway. Most of them are economically left leaning. The main difference between the economic left and the economic right is one likes corporations and the other one is like, oh, corporations are all right. They're meh.
Media. But what does this actually mean? First and foremost, let's define conservatism. According to Britannica, conservatism is a political and social philosophy emphasizing tradition, established institutions like family, church, and
No, that's not conservatism. That's traditionalism. That's basically, that is not a conservative. That's a traditionalist. Yes, traditionalist. One who adheres to or advocates adherence to tradition, believer in or proponent of traditionalism. That is a traditionalist, not a conservative. Then we have conservative. Relating to, favoring a property of conservatism. Inclination to preserve what is established. Belief in established and traditional practices in politics and society. Now, this isn't even really a real philosophy anyways. Because, I mean, what do they consider traditional? Do they consider the 1940s traditional? Do they consider the 1920s traditional? Do they consider the 1890s traditional? It all changes based on time, which is why the traditionalists, conservatives don't exist.
community, and gradual evolutionary change over radical reform. It advocates for limited government intervention, free markets, strong national defense, and the preservation of historically proven social orders. This all sounds very...
No, it just sounds like a capitalist. Those don't really even sound... a lot of them sound like they'll be extorted anyway, but they'll be fine. Give them like 20 years. They'll go to the left anyways.
very nice, but unfortunately, I think Britannica needs to revise their definition. This new iteration of conservatism consists of the vast majority of MAGA being brainwashed cult members.
He was Jesus on earth. He was like living AI, where you could go and ask it a question.
Living AI? What do you mean living AI? That doesn't exist.
And it will respond to you, but with God.
And young conservatives unsuccessfully LARPing a past generation and lifestyle that never really existed. And of course, the return to edgelording.
Yeah, it's romanticism. They're romanticizing a culture which they never knew, understood, or lived in. It's a very classical idea. It's romanticism. It's basically from, it's like the Romans. It's like you never were a Roman, but you want to be a Roman. Yeah, romanticism.
to the lowest circles of hell.
Hiyo, hello. Back from the dog walk. Yeah, so this is interesting. Keep going.
With casual racism and a deep reverence for Hitler.
The young white man, you are truly alone.
But I don't think that's a conservative thing. I think that's a white nationalist thing. I think that's more about being white nationalists. They aren't really conservative. They're white nationalists and white supremacists. They're just co-opting the conservative title. I don't even believe in conservatives. I don't believe that white nationalists are conservatives. Unless you're referring to the Christian nationalists, which are completely different. Which, I mean, sometimes sometimes I think some white nationalists are Christians, but I don't know. Both are often in the same spaces.
All the young white guys need to team up because it is us against the world. Everyone hates us. You guys need to wake up to that fact.
No one hates white people. I've never hated white people. What on earth is this victim complex? They're doing the exact same things They're doing the exact same thing. They're doing the same thing they accuse like black people and Mexicans of. They're doing the exact same thing. They're being like, oh yeah, they hate us. They want us all gone.
We need to become racist and we need to take charge.
And by the way, don't buy into this propaganda that, oh, white girls are just whores. Let's go to fucking Colombia and get a cheap hooker.
Yeah.
This passport bro bullshit, that's as Jewish.
You know, I get tired of people blaming the Jews for everything. I get tired of it. Just say you're bad people and just call it a day.
That's Jewish as fuck.
This video isn't satirical, by the way, even though it literally comes across as leftists parodying what they think the alt-right is. But no, this is just unironically what conservatism is now. Certainly not our best and brightest. But Lily Gladys, no, John, stops.
Isn't that the woman that said the hard R on the internet? And then that black dude. What was that black dude? I missed that black dude that was on that clip. I gotta find him. I gotta see if I can find it. That black dude was like, say it. Say you say the word. Say it. He would do it was funny.
Stop. Anyway, what exactly are conservatives trying to conserve? Western values, Christianity, whiteness? If this is the case, it's quite a hilarious idea. Western values for over a century have been tantamount to consumerism, rampant freedom in almost all societal aspects, and the never-ending desire to achieve capitalistic success, or liberalism.
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
I understand very well that the founding principles of America are derivative of Christianity, but America has never been a theocracy, and the argument that it's inherently a white country is
I gotta look at when when that dude told her to say the N-word. I gotta look at it. Because it was peak.
I mean, would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
I do, quite frequently.
You use the M word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the M word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you? Are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech.
What does real freedom of speech even mean? It's not even real.
Country is entirely fallacious, which we'll get to later. On paper, it doesn't seem like most young conservatives want any of this disgusting liberal ideology or behavior to be proliferated, but in reality, this doesn't really seem to be the case. If anything, the conservative or far-right ethos, particularly amongst young men, seems to be predicated on the conservation of self-centered hedonism, which stems from the quote-unquote conservative old-world utopia of the 1950s, where white men were in charge and beautiful Aryan women were running around barefoot wearing sundresses.
I don't even really believe in the beautiful Aryan women thing. They just want an excuse to attack other men. That's the main thing they want. They don't really care about the race of people. If they cared about white people, they wouldn't be killing. They wouldn't be the K word. I can't use the K word. Unaliving each other. Yes, unaliving each other at a consistent rate.
And made turkey provolone sandwiches for their husbands after they came back from a long day of cheating on their wives with their secretaries, and everything was perfect. Except, of course, it wasn't.
I don't think that cheating on their wives with their secretaries is a common thing. I think you're kind of like overselling it. I don't think a lot of dudes would have had secretaries. Let's just be honest. Most of the dudes probably worked at a factory, made their money, retired, bought a house, had like 2.1 kids. I don't even know how it was 2.1, but 2.1 kids, and lived happily ever after, unless I got divorced. But that's about it.
And for the vast majority of Americans, this was not the reality. Most men were working industrial, agricultural, or factory jobs. Women were also working as teachers, nurses, or on the assembly lines. The nuclear family way of life was reserved for the socioeconomic elite. And although their lives... The nuclear family way of life...
Okay, 70% of the working women were in service roles?
Were also working as teachers, nurses, or on...
Okay, yes. In the 1950s, women's employment was heavily concentrated in pink-collar, clerical, and service roles, with over 70% of working women in jobs like secretaries, nurses, teachers, maids, and retail sales clerks, despite societal home pressure to be homemakers.
On the assembly lines. The nuclear family way of life was...
I don't think it was really societal pressure, though. It could be different. I don't think it was societal pressure. I think it could be a different reason. I think could be they were a minority. It could be the women that wanted to work were a minority. I mean, it could be. I mean, nothing is ever truly black and white. Maybe they were a minority. Maybe they didn't want to work. Maybe it was a more complicated answer. You're just giving me a statistic and expecting me to believe, oh yeah, the women were oppressed completely. when I find that hard to believe. I mean, if that was the case, then there has to be evidence for it. But I don't believe you've given me any evidence to believe that, oh, none of the women, all the women wanted to work, so I can't believe that even mattered.
Reserved for the socioeconomic elite. And although their lives were affluent, I personally don't think this system produced the best outcomes for anyone involved. And I'm not really sure if most conservative men really want that life, even in its most idealized form. That's a ton of responsibility to take on, and an immensely sacrificial life to live. And although I do believe that there are men who are willing to embrace that life and take on those challenges, I think most of these right-wing guys on the internet,
they're LARPers. They don't believe anything. They stand for nothing. They stand for nothing, which means they stand for anything. They don't have a real ideology. They have nothing.
want to be the housewives of the 1950s with the perks of the patriarchy. And even if they could be the housewives, I still think most young far
The patriarchy doesn't exist. Chivalry was not done by the quote-unquote patriarchy. It was done by Christianity. Do you know who the main people in Christianity were? The women. If you're gonna lie, at least lie correctly or something. I don't know.
right men are dreaming of inhabiting a past life that was nothing but a manufactured fantasy. So much of the right-wing rhetoric, specifically Nick Fuentes' community, is completely predicated on delusions of grandeur.
The third thing, we're going to repeal the 19th Amendment.
Women need to shut.
You know they're not going to repeal the 19th. I feel like that's just a lying talking point. Repeal the 19th. At a certain point, it just gets funny when they say repeal the 19th. They don't care about women voting or anything. They don't care about that. I'm just upset they can't get wives. They don't really care about what women voting or anything. If they cared about women voting, they would actually do something about it. And they're not. They won't do anything about it.
Shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
And the entire movement has been tenuously held together by the aesthetic of the right wing.
I can drop ties in this bitch. Drop like flies in this.
That's not right wing, that's Christianity. That's that dude who said, I fought a great battle. I thought I would live to see the age of 50. Now I learned that I will not get to see 30. I remember that movie. Never watched it, but I remember it.
Every time you see a minority, you call them a slur.
You know, these people make me really hate humanity. They make me regret Twitter existing. Or X now. I don't really care what. I'm just going to call it Twitter. They make me regret Twitter existing. These are the main people that are on Twitter. The racists, and they're all horrible. They all suck.
I mean, when Nick went on Piers Morgan's show, when Piers asked him, so what's so cool about Hitler? The first thing Nick said was, well, yes. What's even funnier is when Nick's own words are
I don't support the mustache man, but he does have good edits. And they did have some good bomber jackets. They did have some cool jackets. Now, would I ever support his ideology? Of course not. But I would want the bomber jacket. I would want the bomber jacket, and I want the style of the bomber jacket. That's about it.
Repeated to him, he thinks it's the cringiest thing in the world.
I love everyone.
Bill Gates
I
is
love all people.
Hey, Nick, I noticed you drink Monster Energy, but did you know it's Israeli owned? There's other energy drink alternatives out there not owned by Zionists.
Shut the fuck up and kill yourself immediately.
When a mirror of his own ideology is held up to him, he's
There's no way. Actually, is Monster Drink is Israeli owned? I actually want to know that. That actually would be cool. I mean, it wouldn't be matter because it wouldn't matter anyway. Because probably we're profiting Israel anyway. Israel's profiting anyway, so it really wouldn't matter anyway. If we sent the money to Palestine, what stops Israel from just taking all the money? Nothing stops them from just taking the money. So either way, if you profit, if one of them profit, both of them will.
disgusted by what he sees. But that may have to do with him being an ultra contrarian and also existing on the outskirts of the political zeitgeist for nearly a decade. I think he just
when he wants to be Mexican, he's a Mexican. When he wants to be white, he's white. It's just simple. He's basically middle minority. He's not a real minority. If he was a real minority, he wouldn't be able to switch teams whenever he wants. And he's able to switch teams because he's also white. I mean, they'll try to get rid of him because he's Mexican, but he's also white, so he'll choose when to be white and when to be Mexican. He'll choose.
hates the fact that he's not a niche queen anymore. Anyway, it's unequivocally evident that the conservative movement is falling apart, and it seems like no one within the movement can agree on anything. Obviously, you have the most prolific grifter of the 21st century, Donald Trump, who ran his campaign on no new wars, we don't need those, and general affordability for the American people. And of course, we've been involved in constant foreign conflict, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen large swaths of young people being able to afford homes.
Now, if I want to really crush the housing market, I could do that so fast and people could buy houses, but you would destroy a lot of people that already have houses.
Candace Owens is telling Erica Kirk that her husband's untimely demise was actually her doing, probably true. Tucker Carlson all of a sudden became a liberal Muslim, and Nick Fuentes literally is telling his alt-right
A lot of people that already have houses.
Candace Owens is telling Erica Kirk that her husband's untimely demise was actually her doing, probably true. Tucker Carlson all of a sudden became a liberal.
Tucker Carlson might of the year opposing Israel's genocide in Gaza. I mean, honestly, I hope it's true because it'll be funny. But people get called an anti-Semite for about it, just about anything. So honestly, it doesn't even, the word anti-Semite doesn't even matter.
Right groypers to vote for the Democrats in the midterms, to do anything to deter the GOP from possessing more power.
2026, vote down. I'm a Democrat now. I'm a moderate Democrat in 2026. I don't know about 28. For 2026, I am a non-woke Democrat.
MAGA is such a joke, it's almost not even worth discussing, but here we are, so why not? I should
Yeah, I said vote for a different ideology. If they don't support you, vote for someone else or just make your own ideology.
Just preface that adhering to America's current political system in any capacity is a genuine humiliation ritual where it's like, okay, what candidate should I choose? The one who sacrifices children
They probably both sacrifice children. What's your point?
to Moloch, or the one who has more of an affinity for Baal? Baal and Moloch, both friends of the show, by the way, but the reality is our entire political system is fundamentally broken, and putting my faith in any politician is absolutely ludicrous. However, the MAGA movement would disagree with me immensely. These people would unalive themselves if it was proclaimed a necessity for the betterment of America in the gospel of Trump.
Honestly, Trump could drop a nuke, and I'd still vote Republican over the.
Is this like a vote red no matter who? That's horrible.
Blasphemy of the highest order, of course.
Oh, that was Megyn Kelly.
Speaking of which, then when asked about why he was portrayed as G,
this is literally against like the Ten Commandments. This is literally heretical right here. And I'm not even a Christian. I think this is heretical.
Jesus Christ healing someone with his hand, he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. You're fake news. I'm a doctor. Okay. Secretary of War and faux crusade.
You see, no one knows as much about war as I do. I was the first one to go to war. I knew everything about war. I'm the war expert.
LARPer Pete Hegseth believes we're in a holy conflict, which we'll get to later, and Paula White Cain, Trump's spiritual advisor.
Bro, I don't want to get in the Second Crusade. I mean, a 14th or 15th Crusade. No, actually, the 16th Crusade. I don't want another crusade. I don't want it.
Is a genuine lunatic.
Angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now. Hamanda ata ata raka teda baka sanda ata ambo osa tata rite eke banda ata.
I don't think I need to continually repeat that this administration is an absolute disaster, and the boomer generation of right-wingers will support anything and everything that Trump does because they read somewhere on Facebook that he's playing 4D chess. However, there does seem to be one issue that has brought on some...
Not 4D chess, art of the deal. Art of the deal, bro. It's art of the deal.
skepticism and denigration of the Trump administration and American politics as a whole. Time to talk about Israel and the Jews, ladies and gentlemen. Anti-Semitism has never been more prominent within American culture.
Does Israel have a right to exist? No. And
which, of course, is a
I was gonna say something about like agreeing with that dude being like, oh, of course Israel doesn't have. I was gonna say Israel doesn't have the right to exist, in my opinion. I mean, I'm an American, so if they don't benefit my country, why on earth would I want them to exist? If Israel hurts my country, I don't want Israel to exist.
Measurably understandable when you look at the Israeli government and their treatment of Palestinians, but I really do believe in America that we've gotten to a point where if we have a slightly bad day or don't look like a supermodel, we blame it on the Jews. Of course, AIPAC massively influences American elections as they spent over $100 million in 2024 to ensure.
Yeah, and they want to protect their interests. So if like the other Americans don't want Israel, it's not even really anti-Semitism. We're just anti-Zionist. We believe in Israel. We don't hate Jews. We just don't like Israel. And I don't think that's anti-Semitism. We just don't like the state of Israel. I think if it was like any other like Jewish individual, we don't care if they're Jewish. At least that's what I think. I don't think people care if they're Jewish. They just don't like the state of Israel. And if the state of Israel no longer existed, I think that a lot of people would just be happier. That's just my opinion, though. It's not anti-Semitism. We're just anti-Zionist. We don't like Israel. And there are a lot of Jews that don't like Israel either. So it's not really anti-Semitism. There are anti-Semites, though. But it's mainly we don't like Israel, not that we don't like Jews.
The politicians who support Israel would be elected, and Americans everywhere on both sides of the political aisle, and especially the young right, claim to not appreciate foreign interference and subversion of the American government because we need to be America first. Meanwhile, Qatar has spent over $100 billion on the United States on lobbying, education, and US corporate investments over the past 2 decades, or the $1.2 trillion that they recently pledged to the US, and we never hear anything about that. It's just Netanyahu is the reason why I can't get a girlfriend. And it's like, y'all niggas need to become a little more historically erudite. And honestly, just a little bit more aware of what's happening in the world. Although I could certainly use the 7K, you can call me Johnny Samuelstein all you want, I'm not a fan of the Israeli government in any capacity. But it seems like the belief in America amongst the current right, and just young people in general, is that Israel harbors the only evil people on the planet.
Not only evil people. They're not the only ones. We don't believe they're the only evil people on the planet. We just realize that a lot of our funding and a lot of co-opting comes from Israel. A lot of the money comes from AIPAC and those other parties. It's not just Israel. I'd be stupid to say, oh yeah, if we get Israel, it will solve all our problems. No. It's not just Israel. It's the corporations as well, but Israel is also a part of it, so we got to get rid of Israel too.
And completely disregard all of the other active genocides, slavery, war crimes, etc. that are going on in the world today. I mean, I don't leave the house too much anymore, but whenever I do, I'll go out and I'll talk to ladies and I'll literally just tell them to their face that they're Nazis, and they think that it's hilarious. So like, yeah, honestly, like I kind of am a Nazi. Like, it's like, all right, like why has Russia not faced the same scrutiny as Israel for their activities in Ukraine? I know it's a whataboutism, but what about the millions of Uyghurs in China that are actively being placed in concentration camps that probably could be labeled as religious or ethnic cleansing, or the thousands of Christians and Muslims who were unalived in Nigeria last year, or really any atrocity that's occurred globally.
Honestly, I don't really the Muslims and Christians killed in Nigeria. I'm not Nigerian.
It's totally selective outrage, sorry. And just briefly on the topic of Palestine, why are the other Muslims in the Middle East not aiding their Palestinian brothers and sisters? Just a question. If I'm being real, I don't think anyone really gives a shit about any of this, unless it directly affects them. But Israel is a unique case where I've really been thinking about the root of this current anti-Semitism and why so many young Americans are adoring and revering the Austrian painter. And I've really been trying my best to extract it. Initially, I thought that maybe it had something to do with
I love Austrian painters. No, I'm joking.
Judaist eschatology, the Gaza situation, which is crazy right now, or Israeli interference in the American government. But
the Gaza situation has been happening for years. I stopped caring about the Gaza situation. The best thing that can happen is nobody gets the land and we call it a day. Honestly, I don't care if anyone gets the land. I just want them to shut up about it. If no one gets the land, I'll be happy. So then it won't be my problem anymore. That or no one can get the land and I'll be happy either way. Because it's going to be owned by the corporations by the time it's done anyway. People are going to be just destroying it and building it back up and destroying it again. It'll be regentrified and everything. No one will own the land. The country won't even be its own by the time it's done. Benjamin Netanyahu's even a war criminal, so who cares?
I don't think it's any of those things. There's obviously other national government American soil, but Israel is viewed as the enemy of American sovereignty. I genuinely think the reason for the hate for Israel just comes from the fact that most young people's lives have gone down the drain due to current capitalism, the disastrous dating landscape, and an overall feeling of hopelessness and malaise, among other things. And Israelis and Jews.
It's not the current dating landscape, because if the economic landscape was better, we wouldn't have the current dating landscape. If the economy was better.
Jews are extremely prominent within American society and do hold a disproportionate degree of institutional power, and at best come off as incredibly corny and relatively insufferable across the board, and at worst, Epstein. The Tel Aviv rave culture alone is just not cool to most Americans that spend too much time online. And in a country where that's essentially all young people value, it's no wonder why it's so easy to engage in anti-Semitism. Like, bro, we were at this so lit festival, it was so awesome, and it was like, boom, 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 praise Hashem in Israel. Like, yeah, that shit is corny, it's true. Also, terrible Israeli accent.
But why?
Bro, you were doing an Arab accent. That wasn't Israel, that was Arab. You sound like an Arab, like a random Arabian dude.
Promised to me 3,000 years ago.
Like, whenever someone puts out a song that's overly sincere, just isn't good, or even when someone does something that's just cringe, it's labeled as spiritually Israeli. And then of course you have the whole God's chosen people thing, which, by the way, I kind of have an affinity for, not in the sense where I believe that the Jews are God's chosen people. I actually think according to Christianity that's heretical and blasphemous, but I think upon extensive sociological research, I just like Jewish women from Israel. Why is every Jewish woman so attractive? Like, my first crush when I was 8 was born in Israel, and let's just keep it 1,000.
Yeah, Padme Amidala, she is like, Natalie Portman is pretty, I won't lie to you. But other than that, I don't really see the Jewish women craze. I don't see it.
really hard to deal with neutral because you get dashed on a moment's notice.
I kind of like women who are steeped in religious zealotry and believe that they're closer to God than the rest of other human beings. And this does seem to be rather common amongst practicing Jews. But like, yeah, I get it. That's the religion. And it isn't like the Jews are the only group of people to think this way. Honestly, it seems like the entire world has entered a state of mass religion-induced psychosis. I think the vast majority of members of the Abrahamic religions, and maybe even atheists, genuinely believe that we're in the end times, which honestly may be true, but instead of maybe trying to inhabit a realm of peace and catharsis before it's all over, it seems like every religious person has become a bloodthirsty demon from hell who wants the fatality of everyone who doesn't abide by their religious doctrine in an effort to accelerate the coming of the apocalypse.
It doesn't matter who your enemy is, you need to destroy their offspring to prevent them from creating more offspring.
All this shit is taking me back to the wisdom of Christopher Hitchens, where it's like, I know that religion has genuinely done so much good for the world and probably billions of individuals throughout history, but with the unholy trinity of the internet, the rise of grifters, and legitimate lunatics that are involved in religious practice, how is it even possible for religion to not be corrupted, misinterpreted, and spread to fulfill the desires of wickedness and evil? And
it is often spread and misquoted to prevent wickedness. I mean, that's literally everything that's been going on for like 200 years.
of course, this is nothing new, but in 2026, this has been exacerbated to the fullest extent. Well, maybe not the fullest, which we'll get to in a sec. Back to the Jews. I think a lot of young people in America can't stand the superiority complex that many Jewish people on social media have while simultaneously being victims, which I can totally understand. Like, personally, I have more—
Like Ben Shapiro. Nobody likes Ben Shapiro. I don't know a single person. I don't know a single person who likes Ben Shapiro.
multiple family members that were killed in the Armenian genocide, which Turkey still won't acknowledge, by the way. And on my Jamaican side, the country was colonized by the—
I mean, realistically, Turkey was awesome during the Ottoman Empire. I don't support it because the Ottomans did suck, but they had like an interesting history. The history of it was interesting, I won't lie.
UK, and my family was literally enslaved by, guess who? The Jews, and a literal Jewish slave owner.
I thought you guys would be enslaved by the Ottomans, because they were. Like, wouldn't your family have been enslaved by the Ottomans? Wait a minute, let me look. I need a second. Yep, I was right. They did sell them as slaves. It was done by the Ottoman Empire.
Who slept with a Jamaican woman is the only reason
You guys are probably gonna stream again later today, and I'll probably make sure it's like 2 hours again. I'll see you guys later, and you have a good evening, good morning, and possibly good night. I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys.